Another of last year's grand final heroes, of course, North Smith medalist Andrew McLeod.
Goes short, wide, Bond's got it, McLeod again. What a first quarter he's playing.
Short little kick by James, goes towards McLeod on centre wing. Oh, somehow he escapes. The Burke who started so well, blanking off the boot and spills to McLeod. A chance for the Crows now to grab the lead. He runs to 50. Gets it away to Connell, plays on to McLeod. One of the best on the ground.
Gets it outside 50. Wants Wren. Oh, McLeod takes a screamer.
Surakoski did well. Trapped it on the half volley. McLeod's on the wing.
The winner of the North Smith medal for 1997 is Andrew McLeod of the Adelaide Crows.
And welcome back to the final countdown live from Melbourne on this, the grand final eve. Joining us now, another South Australian great, another sporting legend, now 3AW commentator David Hooks. Welcome.
G'day, Chris.
You want to say something else?
I was going to say something, but I shouldn't dare say that.
Okay, now I spoke to you earlier today, Hooksy.
Yep.
Something that is news to me is that North Melbourne aren't all that popular over here.
No, it's a funny thing you talk about it, and Ross would know it better than we would, but there's not the emotional feeling that, say, an Essendon would have, or a Carlton or a Collingwood tomorrow, Ross. And I just think that whereas the Shitty can drag the jacket-waving thing out, tomorrow people won't go there as Victorians to emotionally barrack for North Melbourne against an out-of-town team. Whereas I think if Essendon played, or Carlton or Collingwood or Richmond, they'd say, okay, we're going to barrack for the Victorian team.
But how do you judge that? Ticket sales or...?
No, just the emotion.
The feeling?
I mean...
You've only been here for 12 months.
3 years today.
Yeah.
If you can't be your sons, go back to college. Go back to college like primary. There's not the emotion to North Melbourne, is there? And that's probably one of the reasons they're going to Homebush.
Well, they're not a side that actually really promotes themselves like an Essendon does. That's not a bad thing. They just go about their business. They're there, and that's the important thing.
Well, they trained last night, and as unpopular as they may be, there were still quite a few people there last night. Crows and North Melbourne met at Football Park, and like round 6, it turned out to be an absolute ripper as well.
What North Melbourne primarily do is they rotate a lot of players around the field. They tend to try and shake players off, so the opposition side virtually is uncontrolled and doesn't really know who they're playing on, and certainly they did a pretty good job in the first quarter, and at quarter time Malcolm Blight was ropeable, okay, knowing that we'd fallen for the 3-card trick that North Melbourne had played. And that's how it was basically set out, that North Melbourne had gone in the first quarter, made a lot of changes in the first quarter, and left the Adelaide Crows running around like chickens with their heads cut off.
I've played over 100 games now, and I thought I definitely learned a fair bit out of that game myself. So definitely the younger players and the blokes who've only been around for a couple of years would have learnt, you know, just as much, if not more, than what I did.
The key to that game was Peter Bell, Anthony Stevens in the midfield. Now, certainly guys like David King, I remember in that game, had a sensational quarter. Ended up getting 3 Brownlow votes for that game. But that particular quarter, and that was very damaging. And those midfield players certainly give Carey a lot of opportunity.
Smart's ball, but danger here because Archer picks it up. Well done by Smart to go for the second attempt and spoil. But it's a dangerous time because Carey's got it. Around he swings. It's high and it's close for the King.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be sent off back standing Carey that night. He was very hot. I think he had 27, 28 touches and kicked a fair few goals.
Look, there's a lesson to be learnt there, and against North Melbourne, and they've beaten us in 2 pretty close games, and certainly it'll be interesting the next time we play them.
Welcome back to the final countdown live from Melbourne on grand final eve. With us, the Crows' #1 Melbourne fan, David Hooks. And David, how confident are you?
Champion.
You're higher than that. Oh, okay.
I was not confident last week. I thought the Crows would lose last week. But I just think they've got some momentum there. That word, Matthew, that...
Well, if you weren't confident last week, they showed you a fair bit.
Yeah, 70 or whatever, 10 goals, 11 goals. But it's interesting about Collingwood. I was speaking to Tony Shaw the last couple of days.
Yep.
They've beaten them 4 out of the last 5 or 5 out of the last 6. He's got this theory about the midfield, that they are quite slow in the midfield, North Melbourne. But if you can get their best midfielders out of the midfield by tagging them and taking them away, so that North Melbourne get their second string midfielders in, they're not as comfortable and they're not as happy. And that's how Collingwood has played over the last 2 years.
Well, the way Adelaide played last week, in particular the centre square bounces, by getting in quickly, I mean, Eccles and people like this come in quickly. They got 5 direct goals from centre square bounces where the Bulldogs didn't touch the ball. So along that line, if they continue that, if they use that pace in the midfield together with centre square bounces, you talk about who's going to pick up Carey and all that, that becomes negative because...
Secondary.
Exactly, they don't get a chance.
But a bit of a key to that last week was, I think, the fact that in the second half, Sean Wren won nearly every tap. Hey, in the first half, he was under the pump a bit. He bounced back very, very strongly.
A lot of talk, Matthew, in this town about the ability of Robin and Vardy to kick goals from outside 50. I mean, we know that Carey can do it, so we can see that point, but they are talking about where's Robin and Vardy come from, these 55, 60-metre goals from one step. That's a big strength for Adelaide tomorrow. And
I think the selection of Marsh, match-up-wise, I think Blight will be looking for Robin to be on McCartney. The extra big man might force him to Pagan to do that.
I hope so.
Yeah, exactly. So Robin can lead to the ball and get it from 60. I think that'll work for the Crows.
It's something unpredictable, but in the end it's right. I hope you had the time of your life. It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life.